Welcome back. This is Global Business on Afia TV, coming to you live from Enugu, Nigeria. To discuss promoting export in Southeast Nigeria, we have Tony Odukwe, an international trade expert and the MD Defcom Foods and Cosmetics in the studio right now. Welcome and good morning, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a
All
pleasure to be
right.
here.
Well, tell us what's been happening with export. Give us an overview of what's been happening in the Southeast.
Well, exports, as we know, is a major contributor to any economy and should be for Nigeria. But unfortunately, with the enormity of resources we have, for the longest time, we've depended on, crude oil, which made our economy a mono economy. We gained all the proceeds from oil, so oil became our principal income earner. And so all the money we've used to run our budget since the 60s, doing infrastructural development, educational projects, and all of that, mostly came from oil, right? But what happened in 2007 was that some of our major buyers stopped coming to market because there was a credit crunch. A lot of countries, went into recession, so countries began to tighten up. And so we lost a lot of our, major buyers, and that began to it dealt a heavy blow on the Nigerian economy. And so it became clear to the federal government that we needed to diversify the economy. But they continued to pay lip service until, recently when it became clear that Nigeria isn't making any money from crude oil anymore. In 2023, there was practically zero remittances from crude oil, to the national coffers. And so it became clear that we can't continue that route. But fortunately, a couple of years ago, the NEPC, in collaboration with the federal government, came up with the ZUP. I told you about the ZUP the last time, the Zero Oil Plan. And so this is supposed to be a policy that will help diversify the economy and begin to make money from all other exportables. And so agro-allied is there, textiles is there, food, processed food is there, solid minerals. Nigeria is blessed with so many. And so we're seeing now agriculture contribute majorly to our exports. And so that's the reason really we haven't gone underground, because oil is giving us zero earnings right now. But we're saying that we need to go beyond just, doing from the farm to the seaport practice, or from the mining ground to the seaport. We have to have a middle ground. In the Southeast, unfortunately, Southeasterners are more into importation. And that's really sad, because importation is draining our economy, right? All the monies that exporters make are given, all the foreign currencies exporters make are given to the importers. And they take these monies that should circulate within the Nigerian economy as a buffer and ship it right overseas to gain, to be able to import consumable goods. And that's really bad for our economy.
What do we have going on at all when it comes to export?
Okay, so coincidentally, I discovered recently that a lot of exportation has been going on through the Bonny port. I didn't know this. I'm a practicing exporter as well, but I've always used the Lagos port. But recently I discovered that a lot of exportation has been going on through the Bonny port. And so what this means is that a lot of agro products are going from the southeast through the Bonny port and going outside Nigeria. And that's a beautiful one. So really, in terms of agro-allied, people are exporting bitter cola.
Okay,
people are exporting, how do you call this stuff? Mushrooms.
Okay.
So there are a lot of agro products going out. PK oil is going out.
That's the palm kernel oil.
That's right. There's a difference from the PK oil and
the one that is
edible.
The end user.
Yes, that's right. Both of them are edible actually, but the red one is different from that one. So people are exporting the red oil as well. So there are a number of products actually that the Southeast is exporting. What happens with the solid mineral is, as a state like Abakaliki has, is blessed with a lot of solid minerals. But Nigerians are not really, Southeasterners are not really into the exploitation of these solid minerals themselves. So there's a practice going on that I condemn, and I want to use this opportunity to actually make it clear that shouldn't be happening. You have the Indians and the Chinese in Abakaliki at these different mines, all their agents buying up these, solid minerals from the mines, right, at a very cheap rate and exporting at a much higher rate, right? So the Indians and the Chinese should not be at our farms or at our mining grounds. It shouldn't happen at all.
We should be handling them.
Absolutely.
And then
our people should be making all that money, right? And so people should own the mines. I don't have a problem with foreigners owning the mines, but if you haven't invested in the mines, right, let the people who invested in the mines, allow them to do their practice and earn all they can earn. But what they do is come there and offer them seemingly something, profitable. For example, there's a solid mineral from Abakaliki lead. These people would offer something like 17 million to 18 million per truckload. But actually, in the international market, you can get as much as 45 million from the same truckload. And so they are really exploiting our people. And I'm calling on the federal government of Nigeria to look into this and actually end that practice right now. It shouldn't be happening. So some level of exploitation is going on in the Southeast, but it's majorly importation that's happening in the Southeast. And we want to change that, really. We want our businesses to be able to switch to export because that's where the money is. Not only are you going to make money individually as an individual businessman, but you also help grow the Nigerian GDP. You also attract the forex that strengthens our economy, right, and helps it become better.
And probably you can see more of the naira dropping when that happens.
Absolutely.
I mean, naira increasing in value more of that happens.
So what we need to see is a deluge, like an army of Nigerian exporters. And so that's the goal we have. We came up, my company, we came up with a plan to grow up to generate up to 10,000 exporters from the Southeast every year, year on year. That's what we want.
When did you decide that?
We started this project. We started working on this project just a few weeks ago. So it's a combination of human development, trainings and all of that, and sensitization to show people the benefits of export. And that way, we hope to convert many already existing importing businesses into export. We're not saying stop your importation business entirely, but that burden on the Nigerian is putting a burden on the Nigerian economy because now to support that practice of importation, we're having to spend all the hard currencies that we get. So what we're trying to say is if you must import, generate the forex yourself. So you export, make some money, and then use the export proceeds to support your importation if you must continue with the importation anyways. Well, we want more people to just do, straight up exportation. And so we want to have 10,000 importers in the Southeast every year. Exporters, rather, in the Southeast every year. And it's a possibility. It's just that people don't know about it.
So you're talking about 10,000 right now. Yes. You want to grow it to 10,000 every year.
Yes.
Do you have any idea or data on the numbers of exporters within the region for now?
I don't have the actual...
Yeah, because if you want to grow to 10,000, you probably... have a number that you think you are dealing with already.
I don't have a number that I can throw out there right now, but I'm one of the leaders of the export community in the Southeast, so I know we don't have a lot of...
You've been working closely with the NEPC, so, Nigerian Export Promotion Council.
That's right. So I know we don't have a lot of exporters in the Southeast, right? So I can guarantee that we don't have up to 2,000 exporters in the Southeast right now. Currently.
That's when you put Anambra, Enugu, Imo, Bonny, Abia, and some part of...
Do you know what it means to have 2,000?
all of them together.
To have 2,000 exporters. If we had 2,000 exporters in the Southeast, we would have already known.
Okay.
We'll see the effect in
I think I can agree with you, either because of lack of awareness
That's
or
number one.
We don't have them. I remember when Ethiopian Airlines started their cargo flights, and they were complaining
even till now
that they weren't getting enough cargo, like for things to take from the southeastern region of Nigeria and move over to all the places that needed, because cargo was basically to do with products that people wanted to take outside the country.
It's a good point you made right there. They come in full and they leave empty, and that's not good for business. And so if we had enough exporters in the Southeast, it will take care of that problem. So that problem continues to persist because we don't have enough exporters in the Southeast. So really, we are also in talks indirectly now with Ethiopian Airlines, to help them, solve that problem. And the number one way we can solve that problem is to sensitize the Southeasterners, make a lot of noise around export and actually teach them, the processes of exporting. It's not really rocket science, it's teachable and we can teach people. And so the more people we can have go into that, then you will see they will begin to subscribe to the services of Ethiopian Airlines, right? And a lot of people will also begin to use the Bonny or Onne port.
Which is another area to explore very well.
That's right, and it's quite close to us here, so yes, it's accessible.
Very, very close. So what these trainings, these teachings, give us some insight on, the areas you're looking at.
Okay, basically, the two major problems with export in Nigeria, not just in the Southeast, is product development for those who work in the food processing area, or cosmetics, it's usually product development that's the major problem. Then the second most important, aspect of export, but is a problem for Nigerians, is access to international market, right?
Okay.
So what we want to do is teach people who are in the cosmetics and food processing areas how to get the products up to par. Right? There are certain elements that you have to consider when you're developing a product, right? Number one is that it has to be barcoded. If you don't have a barcode on your product, you can't sell it in any of the major superstores in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. So if anybody buys that from you, they can't supply the superstores who are the major buyers a lot overseas, right? That's for the finished product. So you have to have a barcode. You have to have what we call the nutritional facts. A nutritional table where you have all the nutritional values listed. The certifications have to be there. If you have NAFDAC, if you have ISO certifications, it has to all be there on the packaging. And so colors and letters and all of that are important actually to drive what we call attention span. Right, to grow attention span, because you see, you walk into a store, for example, where you have a lot of cosmetics products, there are certain products that will always catch your attention, and you wonder why that catches your attention. It's just simply because of the game of colors and letters and how things are arranged. So you have to understand all of this to be able to make a product that is up to par and can, compete in the international market. And remember that the people that you're going to be competing with in the international market are people who spend as much as $50,000 to develop one product. And tell me what Nigerian company spends as much as $5,000 to develop one product. So when it comes to product development, we are still behind. And so we want to teach people, the basic secrets of product development. Then on the other hand, when the product is ready for export, how do I find a buyer? In America or in the UK, in China or wherever, that's access to international market. And really, I'm an expert in that regard. And so we want to teach people how to, be able to achieve these two feats. And once you can get this all, taken care of, then you're a good exporter.
All right.
Yes.
We will still hold this thought. You are still watching Global Business right here on Afia TV. We'll take a break shortly. We will be right back.
For Enugu, what is happening now is that they are flaring the gas. That's what it is. They are wasting it. It's a waste. Somebody from DPR estimated that between the time it has been burning for about 6 days now, that you have over 6 million cubic feet of gas.
Everybody, because I am
we are the community that are nearest to the incident.
Residents have described the situation as unsettling, adding that the end of the fire outbreak seems nowhere in sight.
Are you not shocked that a fine girl like me don't have PVC?
I have my PVC and I've even revalidated.
I want my vote to count in next year's election.
Welcome back. You are still watching Global Business right here on Afia TV. And I am Ifoma Ajumobi. Our guest in the studio is Tony Odukwe, and we have been talking about promoting export in Southeast Nigeria. All right, take it up from where we stopped. You were saying something on the trainings, the kind of trainings you would be doing to sensitize people and promote export. You've been sharing amazing insight, but just round off on that talk.
Okay, so like I said, first of all is help the manufacturers or producers to get their products right. That's in product development, and then take it a step further to train them in on how to access international market, because that's really the major game. How you can find a buyer from overseas to buy your commodities. You know, and so we hold these trainings regionally. We hold a lot of this in Enugu as well. We also work with individual companies, and we work in and just teach them the basics of how to access, you know, the international market.
You've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
What would you say is the level of interest when you talk about these things, especially exports, amongst farmers, amongst business people, amongst young entrepreneurs, established entrepreneurs? What would you say is the level of interest?
There's a lot of excitement. You know, people love money. So when you tell them that there's an opportunity for them to earn Forex, right, they're excited about it. But then when the push comes to shove, then you actually understand that there's some intricacies and some technicalities about it, and they start pulling back. But you don't need to pull back, actually. It's sweet business. And I must say this here. Export is a business that you don't really necessarily have to spend a dime of your own money to actually fulfill.
How does that happen? Maybe you share in another program, but really, how does that happen?
That's why you have to understand the game. If you understand the game, you find out that the buyer, the importer, finances the export.
Okay.
The foreign buyer finances the export, right?
Okay.
Because there has to be, first of all, some exchange. When you find the buyer, there has to be, you know, some kind of correspondence by telephone calls and emails and all of that. Then you send a pro forma invoice. You send samples of the product, first of all. They check it and see if they like it. If they like it, they write you back and say, we like it. You send a quote, now a pro forma invoice and all of that. When you've done all of that and they really like it and they decide to buy 10 containers from you, what they need to do is open an LC, a letter of credit, right? So when that letter of credit, which is a letter, you know, it's a financial instrument from the buyer's bank to the seller's bank. So when that letter comes to your bank or comes to you, now that letter itself can finance the export, because there are banks who will actually give you money to finance that export on the basis of that LC that you've gotten. So you find out that you can fulfill an order of 10 containers without spending a dime of your own money.
That is, you know, very interesting.
Right.
And so as someone who's done some level of marketing, I understand perfectly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity, but I think the major thing will be people being ready to stand the test of time and go through the rigorous process. It is a rigorous process.
Not really.
To some extent.
Not really.
Okay.
I wouldn't let you say that, because now you're going to discourage people.
Well, they need to know so they can get ready.
It's not rigorous, which have to be taught. You
Okay.
have to be taught on how to do that. We'll teach you how. And it's a short, you know, training span. You learn that and then you start the process, right? Now, but the other thing is that export requires a lot of discipline and honesty. In the past, exporters from Nigeria have messed up the thing, right? For example, we've had complaints of white people who ordered cashew. And so these cashews come in sacks, right? And so if you agreed with the customer, the buyer, that you're going to send, you know, say 20 tons of 50 kg sacks, right? And then they find out that when the goods landed there, the bags hit 50 kg. But actually, the cashew weight itself is 40 kg, and the seller made it up with some stones. Made up the 10% with some stones. And so when you weigh it, it's 50 kg, but in practice, when you open it up, it's a mixture of cashew and stones. How do you think, you know, that kind of customer will ever come back to buy from Nigerians? So these are some of the practices we've had in the past that has affected export in Nigeria. And so we're trying to teach people that if you must go into export, you have to be honest, you have to be disciplined, and you have to be, you know, sincere and have a lot of integrity.
And I'm sure a whole lot of that has changed.
Yes,
I've also
absolutely.
had the opportunity to deal with very few exporters from the Southeast and even from Nigeria as a whole, doing amazing stuff. So, but you are saying we need more, and that's fantastic, especially if it's going to help our GDP,
Absolutely.
economy, and then even the value of our currency right now. All right. Thank you so much, Tony Odukwe,
Thank you.
international trade expert, and the MD DEFCON Foods and Cosmetics, for the great insights you've shared here with us.
Always a pleasure.
This is where we would end on the show today, Global Business, right here on Afia TV. Do join us again for another interesting time. Up next will be Opening Bell. I am Ifeoma Ajumobi saying, enjoy more on Afia TV.